Testing, testing. Is this thing on? No, I'm just kidding. I know it's on. Welcome to the Paranormal Portal, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Brent Thomas, and we are live this Saturday evening, the 29th of September. The months are just flying by. How many shopping days till Christmas? Oh, God. I don't know. But I just know that I'm loving being here, and it's Saturday night, and this is the Portal. And if you were looking for another show, you're in the wrong place. But welcome to the Portal, everybody, and thanks for being here with us. And by us, I do mean, of course, my good, wonderful friend and co-host, Mr. Don Longbeard.
He's so sweet when I'm not here. I mean, when I am here.
Yeah, you should see what I say when you're not here.
Yeah, you're lucky
my
I can't
God.
watch it. I'm like,
There is that.
no, you know what? You've been having some awesome shows on Fridays. And just last week was awesome. Last night was awesome. You've been having some great shows, and it's just awesome.
It is, well, it's a lot of awesome all in
It's
one
awesome.
one monologue there.
That's
but
right. Oh, Don's monologuing again. Watch out.
Don's monologuing. Everybody, go get a snack. No, it's been really great shows. It's really been wonderful. I've had a lot of participation and help, and that's always fun.
It's been
I mean,
great.
it really makes the night fly by for one, but it also adds so much to the conversation when all of you guys out there listening participate. It's just so much fun to hear your stories, your experiences, and I've just been really loving the fact that so many are choosing to share those here on the Portal. I'm very honored to hear your stories and to have a chance to discuss them with you. So to everyone that has called in, thank you so much for doing so. And if you are hearing the sound of my voice and thinking, oh my God, do I have a story for these guys? Then feel free to share it by calling 213-233-3998. Again, 213-233-3998. And if you need a toll-free access, it's 833-TFR-LIVE. 833-TFR-LIVE. And if you're calling from across the pond, then you can call using 44203-393-2871. 44203-393-2871. Those are your ways of contacting us here on the Portal. The Portal hotline is standing by, ladies and gentlemen. And special thank you to Frank and Paula. Your fearless shows are always just amazing.
I
It's
love
really,
listening to them.
I know.
Tonight was just energizing.
Didn't you feel like you were just at the dinner table with them, just chatting, like you're just eating a sandwich and
Just
enjoying
yeah.
enjoying the talk?
was
I mean, it
awesome.
was really great.
Yeah.
They just have such a great mood and such a great energy. So you guys did amazing, and thank you. It's a tough act to follow, just like on Friday nights. Following Freaky Friday is tough, but I'm really honored to be here, and it's a lot of fun. And ladies and gentlemen, of course, following the Paranormal Portal, stay tuned for a live Beyond the Veil coming up with Chris and Cherie.
Yeah.
And then later after them, we'll be, of course, into the microcosm with Brandy and Rio and
yep.
Jimmy Jean, going through the midnight hour here on the Pacific side of life, what time that means for you, I don't know. But it's a great show, and just a great lineup all around. And Rob before Frank was amazing.
Yep.
It's just a great night. I just love these Friday and Saturday nights. Not that there's ever a bad show on TFR, don't get me wrong. Everybody, I just can't listen all day long, unfortunately, but the shows I have listened to have been amazing. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to help us here on TFR to perpetuate our shows and to help us keep the lights on here at TFR, definitely go to tfrlive.com, and you can certainly type in /paranormal portal and become a member that way. But however you get to there, just become a member. It definitely supports what we're doing. We're doing this. All of us hosts here on the network are doing this as a labor of love, and we certainly love our network. We love our co-hosts. We're like a big family here. And unfortunately, the tough part about doing a show is that it's a personal expense for every one of us doing a show. I mean, we have to provide, we have specialized equipment. We have specialized things. We got a lot of junk in our studios, like me behind me. If you're looking on YouTube, you can see all the junk. I just love all this weird stuff, so I just keep piling it up here to the point where my wife doesn't even like to come in here. She's like,
"Ah,
it's such a
no,
mess.
no."
You should clean this up. I like my mess. But
It's an organized chaos.
this is my portal studio, and by God,
It's my studio.
I know where everything is, I think. So, and that brings up a great point as well, ladies and gentlemen. If you'd like to see us doing the portal, the magic that is the portal live, you can go over and load up youtube.com/paranormal portal and find the
your
live
fix
episode.
there.
Yeah, and you can certainly catch all of our archived video on demands there as well. But that's how we roll up in here. But
Well, and don't forget BitChute.
well, we're on BitChute as well, and what's the other one? DTube.
DTube, yeah.
DTube. We've got a bunch of videos over there. So we're just spreading the portal net as wide as we can, and we hope that however you find us and however you take part in the show, that we're honored to have you. I just want you to know that. And so, how you been, Don?
Been good. Today was a good day. I bumped into our friend Betty Broomsticks from 7B Brooms, Broomsticks, and saw Julia Tejan today. And
Oh, wonderful.
yeah, just got out and about. Had a great day. Went over and got some pears, got some apples off the back of that big, beautiful tree in that guy's backyard. Thank you very much. I went over to Steve's place, yeah. And so, we're going to get the wine going there and the apple butter. And it's been a great day. It's been a great day.
Absolutely. Well, good, and I'm glad to have you back. Of course, it's always tougher on those Friday nights without you. It's just more that I have to try to take care of, and I certainly love it when you're here, and also, the conversation's always better, I think.
Oh, well, thank you.
But, that's just me. Just trying to let you know how much I love you. Thank you.
My heart's breaking.
I know it does. Now, I do want to take a minute also, if you want to help support the Paranormal Portal, and you're already a member of TFRlive.com, please head over to ParanormalPortalRadio.com. Check out the Paranormal Portal gear. It helps us to keep the lights on here in the studio. So, just trying to, cast the nets, as it were. But again, these shows are labors of love, and we certainly are growing, and it's becoming amazing, more amazing all the time. But I have so many big plans, but unfortunately, with big plans come
big expenses,
bigger expenses. So, what do you do? But I also want to drop a plug for a friend of mine. He has a website called tfetch.com, and it's a really cool site where he's got connections to T-shirt designers and printers all over the web, and he does an amazing job over there. So check out tfetch.com if you're looking for some great tees, as well as the ones on paranormalportalradio.com. But and also check out metalrelic.com, and it's a scrap metal sculptures.
Oh, wow.
Very cool stuff that he's doing. And
is that T-Fetch too?
Yeah, it's the same guy, and he's doing both sites, and really is working real hard. So I've been friends with him for a while now, and I really want to help support what he's doing, because I know he's working real hard and is pulling his life together and is doing wonderful things. So beautiful stuff he's got over there. Check it out if you're able to help support what he's doing. So that's enough of the laundry list, and I'm sorry I don't want this to become an infomercial. That certainly isn't what the portal's all about, but we're all just trying to make it work here, and every little bit helps. So tonight I want to do a show. The show tonight is about living a haunted life, and that everybody, many people believe that there are haunted places. You don't go to that house because that's a haunted house. You don't go to that forest because that's a haunted forest. But many people experience hauntings no matter where they go. They experience these lives that seem to be charged with spiritual energy. And so it's kind of the term I threw at it was haunted life, and I know many of the people that follow the portal have led haunted lives. I know that there's many reasons that could be, but I think that spirits can sometimes choose a location like that. That location feels good for them. That's comfortable. It resonates with them. And if they're just trying to disconnect, or if they have things to work through, or they're earthbound, they will find whatever place that is. But sometimes that place is a person. Sometimes there's an energy that a person gives off that is maybe so bright, maybe it's so resonant, and it's so alive that they gravitate towards that, because it's nostalgic. It maybe reminds them of their own life. And at the hour break, I put together clips from the movie Poltergeist, which is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Really?
And it talks about, how this Carol Ann reminds them of the life they used to know, and that's why they're holding on to her. So that's kind of what I mean by a haunted life. And we're going to get into stories and ideas about this and discuss it. And again, see what you guys think. I think it's a phenomenal subject, and it certainly is interesting to me. I believe that in many ways I've had a haunted life. Have I really? I don't know. To me, it seems like I've experienced a lot of things, but to other people it might be absolutely nothing, and they have been through a whole lot more. But we're going to get into that tonight and see what you guys think. But before we go any further, I do want to open with a couple of emails that we got.
Yay!
And one of which was from our very own psychic, Miss Deb. And she emailed and was talking about a house guest she had. Now, last night's show was about paranormal encounters in the night, or night attacks, and specifically sleep paralysis and other nighttime experiences such as that. That could be incubus, succubus. Those were all discussed last night. So if you want to catch more about that show, check it out on either tfrlive.com on demand Paranormal Portal episodes, and you can hear it there. Or if you want to see the video of it, check it out on youtube.com/paranormal portal. But I did get a couple emails that I didn't realize were in there until after the show, and I want to go through those quickly tonight because I think they're great stories. So the first one is from Deb. She said, we had a young lady named Midnight that stayed with us for a few weeks. She had woke up in the middle of the night with something choking her a few nights in a row. She couldn't even call me until it stopped. It was a dark energy, and she had brought it into my home with her. From what she told me, that wasn't her first experience with that happening. But it completely stopped after I got rid of it.
Oh, wow.
And that's really powerful, and that's the beauty of staying with a psychic. Deb is also a paranormal investigator as well, and has helped help many spirits cross over. So it's also part of her toolbox of things. Now, we know her on the show for doing call-in readings, and she's amazing. But her skill set is obviously more robust than that. And she was able to cleanse this dark energy as well. So that was very cool. But, these experiences are absolutely terrifying. And having lived through that, I can say without any pause that it was one of the most terrifying things to experience. All right, the next one was from a listener, and this is Leslie Watson. And she wrote in and said, I hope you're all well. I wanted to tell you about a few experiences I've had. I have a history of lucid dreaming. Let me blow this up. I am getting old or something.
He means zoom in.
Oh, yeah, I mean zoom in, making the text bigger because I don't have
this thing up. Hold on.
Yeah, well, I guess choice words. I have a history of lucid dreaming, and every time I lucid dream, I have night terrors.
Wow.
There are 3 dreams in particular that something that feels so evil is trying to take one of my family members. In particular, my oldest son, my daughter, and my husband. They all start off the same way. I would be asleep and hear something in the hallway, and it would be whichever loved one I was dreaming about that night peeking around the corner staring at me. I would yell at them to go back to sleep, but would just appear to get closer and closer to my bed. When I would turn over to wake up my husband to get him to tell them to go back to sleep, there would be a black figure hovering over my bed, growling.
Wow.
And whichever person I was dreaming about that night standing in the corner, pointing at it and giving off a sinister laugh. I would apparently know that I was dreaming because my husband said I would start yelling at him to wake me up. And I sounded like I was having a hard time breathing. My last experience wasn't really a dream, but I was having a hard time sleeping 2 nights ago, so I stayed up watching Zach Bagans' Deadly Possessions. That's great material. Great material to watch, Leslie, when you're trying to get some sleep.
Yeah,
that's awesome. These are my people. That's all I got to say. These are absolutely my people.
Yeah. Wow.
The episode I watched was Peggy the Doll episode and Dybbuk Box episodes. And I was more creeped out than I was scared. But after I turned off the TV and laid there about 15 minutes, I felt something rub up my spine. It felt like a foot with a sock on it, which didn't surprise me because my 6-year-old sleeps sideways in the bed and was sleeping with me that night. I got very intense chills all over my body, and I have only felt this type of sensation once before when lightning struck my neighbor's yard during a storm.
Oh wow.
I was sitting on the porch and felt the static electricity. Anyways, I finally fell asleep and was restless all night. When I woke up yesterday, I was very agitated and emotional. I literally locked myself in my room all day long and was either crying or angry. I had constant chest pains and knew I probably should have went to the hospital, but I couldn't bring myself to go. I finally snapped out of it around 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. last night. My chest pain went away and I felt like my normal self again. Those are my experiences, and thank you for reading them and hopefully giving me feedback. I hope you have a blessed night.
Wow.
So it sounds to me like you do have something lingering around you, just on the face of this, without asking you any further questions. It seems like something now in a lot of hauntings, especially with not necessarily dark evil entities, but with the more negative type of hauntings. The idea is to create stress and imbalance
Right.
because that makes you weaker. That makes your aura weaker. And to create fear and anger and sadness, because those are negative emotions, and a lot of the dark spirits are rumored to feed off of those things. So it sounds like something is working pretty hard to make you both weaker by the sleep issues, because you're not getting restful sleep,
Right.
and attacking you so you feel vulnerable and causing you to be afraid. It doesn't sound like you're overly afraid, which is wonderful, and I hope that you're not. I hope that you're able to keep your your head
Right.
on your shoulders with this, because it's really important to claim your space. It's really important for you to push back. You don't need to allow to empower this any more than it already is. So claim your space. Sage, if you have any connections for people to help you cleanse it, use them. If you don't, please email me back, and I will get you in touch with either Deb or Sean, who can help you with that as well. It just sounds like something dark and ugly, and needs to be kicked out before it gets too problematic or creates a connection or further oppression. I don't know what the end game is with it, because I can't be sure what it is. It just sounds pretty clearly like something dark, and it's smoke and mirrors is what you have to remember with most of this stuff. Like, influencing the dream state for spirits, I don't think is a real tough thing to do. They are basically energy, and that's why you felt that electricity, that charge, is because you were feeling the essence of what the spirit was. I think that, excuse me, I swallowed sideways, if that makes sense. But I think that, it's important to claim your space, to cleanse, get some sage if you don't have any. Burn it as you walk through your house. Using prayer if you're religious, using affirmations, whatever works for you, whatever resonates with you, and demand that it leaves, that it's not welcome, and let it know that if it doesn't leave, you will bring in more and more positive things to cleanse it until it is gone, that you're not going to give up. So just claim your space is what it sounds like to me. Don, do you have anything to add?
Well, no, that's the that seems to be the best. Talk to it, let it know its boundaries. And if you need to, then push it. And then that seems to be pretty much the way it works.
It does,
Yeah.
and usually it is, but
And don't give in to that flight instinct. Stay and fight.
right, yeah, exactly, and
Yeah.
that's the claiming your space. Definitely,
Yep.
it's your home. Something is sounds like something has worked its way into you. Now, I would recommend, if you're uncertain about the situation and would like to know more about what it is, to let me know, and we can get you in touch with Deb or Sean again to read the situation for you, so you know what you're dealing
Right.
with. It could be that you have either very active psychic ability or you have latent psychic ability, but those often times are real keys for these kind of attacks.
She says she's a religious person, so definitely get
Well, then get a
your pastor, your
priest,
priest, whatever that
pastor,
is. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
And using holy water then
yeah.
throughout your house will be a great cleanser as well.
Salt.
Praying,
Yeah.
carry a Bible, read Psalms, do things like that resonate with your spirituality that are powerful, and it should expel negative things. But if not, there are more things we can do. Just keep in touch with us and keep us posted, Leslie. We would love to, we'll make sure you get through this fine. So no worries. And thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. And I just love your contributions. And if you have any others, please send them in. I'd love to share them on the show as well.
Wow.
So great stories, great
Excellent
again,
start. Yeah.
excellent start. It's always amazing here on the portal. So
You're welcome, Leslie. She says thanks.
Oh,
so,
yeah,
definitely, definitely get get your faith in there, and people based in your faith, and
Yeah.
and tell them, tell them what they need to know, and see what they can help with if that's the way it goes, but even the Catholic religions, they use incense to cleanse and things like
Sure.
that. So, I mean, there's all kinds of things. So
Right.
there you go.
Frankincense can be real powerful. So if you get frankincense, incense,
Right, true, yeah.
and burn that throughout your house, that'll
Yeah.
be a very powerful cleanser as well.
Just don't burn it on the wrong type of charcoal. It'll smoke your house out.
Or you can add a steak while you're at it.
Well, that
Use
sounds
the
good.
wrong
Yeah.
kind of charcoal.
There you go. Yeah.
But those are all methods you can use,
Yeah.
and I hope that helps. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's continue on our journey, ladies and gentlemen, and let me check the call board to see if we've missed anything. Nope, we are good to go.
Looks good.
We're good to go here on the portal. The portal is underway. We got 3 minutes left. Holy
Wow.
man!
Wow.
And ladies and gentlemen, please, since there's only 3 minutes, it's hardly worth getting into a story at this point. We'll get into those on the other side of the break, but please spread the word. Let people know if you have friends or family or groups you're involved in that are paranormal based. Spread the word about the portal. I'm the most proud of the fact that the portal has grown completely organically. We have not paid for any advertising anywhere. Even when Facebook says, "Oh, we'll give you $30 to promote," it's like, no, I haven't done any of that, and I haven't gotten into any of those sub for sub shares and stuff like that or anything, because I want to make sure that the people that are coming to the portal are interested in the portal, not just to generate numbers. To me, that's it looks impressive, but it means absolutely nothing. So the community is what it is because people have found us and they like what we're doing, and I'm absolutely honored and humbled by that. But it's you guys that have promoted us, and it's you guys that have made us bigger and better than we have ever been. So thank you for that, and please continue to spread the word.
Frankensteak.
What? Frankensteak. Who said
awesome. That? Bob Ross in the chat room, in the YouTube chat. That's awesome. Frankensteak. I'm up for it. Let's do it.
Call Gordon Ramsay. I think we got a winner. We're going to make some Frankensteak. Frankensteak. That's funny. I love our people.
Oh, gosh.
We're all paranormals. We're all such paranormals.
This is awesome. Wow. Wow. Look at that crowd. We got a crowd tonight.
Didn't you miss it, though, Don, when you're not here?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, man. I do. I missed my seat last week when I wasn't able to be here at all, and just, and Doc's like, hang in there, Don. You're almost there. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm missing my seat, though.
It is.
Yeah.
I kept it clear for you.
Yeah,
I didn't stack anything on it.
Thank God. Yeah. I meant like spiritualize.
Oh, yeah. No.
Don't.
And nothing again tonight. And we are, ladies and gentlemen, we are running the Ghost Detector app. And I'm trying a new experiment tonight. And what I was talking about last night is I got to try something because I had an idea of what could possibly create false positives. And that is, I have a wireless amplifier in the upstairs of my home and by the studio, and I haven't had it plugged in for the most part in the recent weeks, but I had it plugged in on Wednesday night, and we had, of course, a bunch of things pop off on this Ghost app, and so then I unplugged it after the show because it felt a little warm, and that's why I've been keeping it unplugged mostly. But I thought last night when I was doing the show and talking about it, I was like, that's the only difference that I can remember from Wednesday till, last night was that the difference is I didn't have that repeater on that amplifies the signal. And I plugged it in before the show tonight, and it's still been absolutely flat. So it doesn't seem to be a cause for this thing to go off, which is good, which kind of helps to validate what has come through, that there might be something more to it, because we've had more shows with nothing happen than anything at all. And Wednesday's show was pretty impressive again, but nothing over the top, but it was pretty cool. Was that Wednesday's show? Or?
Yeah, it was
Yeah, it
because
was.
we had the two spirits.
Yeah, the two. Yeah,
The malevolent one by me, and the
no, that was by the
Midwestern-
door.
Oh, was it by the door?
Yeah,
Okay. For some reason, I thought it was.
The red one was over by the door.
There we go. Okay.
Over this way. And Don is over this way. So we're going to go to our break, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back after these messages, so don't go away. And we'll be back for more of the Paranormal Portal here on TFR Live and YouTube.
Oh.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second half hour of tonight's Paranormal Portal. And I just see a message in the chat room from Bob Ross says, Brent, Don, if you two do a bit on paranormal dreams, I'd love to share a few of mine.
Oh, paranormal
And
dreams,
and
yeah.
let me
Absolutely.
just say that if you ever have anything that you want to submit,
Yeah, you don't have to wait for us to
yeah,
get to a specific.
don't
yeah.
wait for a specific show. Just go ahead and email it. And you can email it to paranormalportalradio@gmail.com, and I'll share it on any show.
Except Wednesdays.
Well, yeah, that's true. We do a Wednesday live stream on YouTube only, but I usually share the listener emails till Saturday
Fridays
nights
and
because
Saturdays,
that's the network nights, and that's when we're on iHeart, TuneIn, TalkStream, and TFR Live plus YouTube.
That's where thousands of people can hear
Thousands
your
and
story.
thousands of people can hear what you've been through, and I just think it adds so much. Not that the Wednesday shows aren't great; they're wonderful, but I just those your listener emails to me are like they're like the diamonds, and I want to bring them out when the most people can appreciate them. So, you know what I mean?
We are the Antwerp of the paranormals.
You guys, that's like the good china that you bring out for guests. We had paper plates on Wednesday, but the good china comes out
Like the
Friday and
garbage cans
Saturday.
over there, we recycle on Wednesdays only.
Exactly. After the show on Wednesday, Don's washing the paper plates.
Yeah.
We can use those again. That ain't garbage.
Don't worry, it's plastic. We can wash it.
Yeah. Yeah, we can wash that 5 times.
Doesn't matter if it's limp. Just put it in the oven and it'll dry out.
Ooh. Yeah.
Whoa! Wait a
It's
minute.
a whole different kind of.
Ooh, ain't that kind of party up in here?
Yeah. So anyway, this is the Paranormal Portal, ladies and gentlemen, and as you can see, we usually just roll with it. We just kind of do this thing. We don't really have an idea what we're going to say next, ever. But
Ever. Some things go over. Some things you just shake your head at and just
know.
roll on.
you can't script this kind of stuff, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, I found this interesting little article. It just talks about a couple little things about spiritual attachments. Can I go ahead and read this?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Might as well.
Okay. Well, spirit attachments can be found in the aura or chakra, often the solar plexus, or in some part of the physical body. The topic of the spirit attachment can be found throughout many cultures and religions going back to ancient times. Spirit releasement is a more modern, compassionate method of what is called exorcism. So spiritual releasement as opposed to exorcism.
Releasement.
It's more compassionate method. It's not throwing,
Right,
it's
right.
not the Linda Blair.
It's not a
Reagan-
cage match
yeah,
like
exactly.
exorcism is.
Exactly. However, there are differences between possessions and attachments. Attachment is when the spirit or entity is attached to some part of your energy field. This is not a possession like you see in Hollywood films. Actual possession is considered to be rare and more severe, where the spirit has actually been taken over. The spirit has actually taken over the body and the person entirely. The most common of spiritual attachments are earthbound spirits. Now, this ties into what you were talking about a little bit last night. Most haunting earthbound spirits are usually innocent and were looking for comfort in their time of death and did not yet make it to the light. So this ties into what you were talking about last night about your theory. The second most common is dark force entity attachments, which are often referred to as a lower vibrational spirit. This type of spirit will attach to a living person with the intention of creating misery, hopelessness, fear, stealing a person's light, and draining their life force. This goes back to what you just read in Leslie's story. The main goal of these spirits is to disempower humanity. These spirits are not normally the type you see in the scary movies and are often able to transform into light during spirit releasement. So interesting. So if you can get that spirit to release, it'll release as light and hopefully, go home.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is in a lot of cases these attachments are not really nefarious.
Right.
They're just confusion. They're just desperation. They're
Right.
they can be nearly tragic. So to release them is actually as good for you as it is for them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because they're
That's what it
trapped in
sounds
this
like, yeah.
they're trapped in this confused limbo state and
I'm
don't
in
really
this
know what
limbo
the hell to
state,
do.
too.
So, what's that?
I'm in this confused state all the time.
You are an attachment, but a good one. You're like the Swiss Army knife over here, Don.
Oh, nice.
But
Yeah, well, nice save there,
well,
buddy.
thank you,
Oh, thank you, thank
thank
you.
you. I'm here all night. Thank you very much. Thank you. Uh-huh. Yes, indeed. But yeah, I mean, attachments are tough stuff, and but I just think it's important to to push the idea that not everything is a demon. That's the big thing.
Oh, that's an interesting thing. Somebody just said in the chat room, in the YouTube chat,
Okay.
it says that animals can carry. Okay, so Bella says yes, even animals can get energy attachments. So I've heard. Now, with that being said, maybe it's not you that's haunted. Maybe it's not your house. Maybe it's not that thing you brought in from the auction house or whatever. Maybe it's your cat.
Maybe.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
There have been some evil cats in my life. Oh
It's
my!
not. It's just that you are just so damn sweet. That's why.
I guess so.
You
yeah.
draw
That is-
things.
Let me chew on your knees there.
Your
Hey,
toes,
those are
mostly.
my toes, buddy. Come on now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thought too. Maybe it's not necessarily you or your things, but maybe it's an animal that you have invited into your house that has an attachment. You know. And like I said, I think cats are right up there.
And that's possible. I'm not saying that it's not possible, but
Right.
I think that animal attachments probably happen as something dark is working its way up to something bigger.
So it's going up the ladder.
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
kind
okay,
of a food chain.
yeah, it's kind of like, oh, there's this cat, and this cat goes over to this house where I know there's a lot of people that do X or Y.
Right. And the thing is that there are so many cases of people having, hauntings, and the first thing they'll notice is that their pets will react.
Mhm.
Then after a while, if it's something dark, their pets just get lethargic and start, losing their spirit, losing their spark.
Right.
And a lot of times, there have been many reports of pets dying,
Right.
and the activity increasing and continuing as it goes. So, is it more of a food chain kind of thing? And again, these are my theories. These
Right.
are
Yeah.
theories of people out there. Whatever you guys believe, I don't pretend to know. I just can only speak to what I have read, what I
What
feel
was understood,
intuitively, what resonates with me, what doesn't. And I don't have a basis for my knowledge in the traditional sense. There's things that I feel are right and there's things I feel are wrong, and I can't always quantify what that means.
Right.
But I can only speak to why I believe that, and whether I'm right or wrong is irrelevant. The point is that if you have an attachment, it is good to leave and get done.
Get something to do. Yep. Yep.
Whip out the Hoover and suck them up. That's it. Get them out. But and again, it's not necessarily demonic. It's not necessarily nefarious.
Right.
All the time. But anything that's drawing from your energy, it's doing it wrong, and by releasing it, there should be a positive transformation, and that's a good thing. So I just want to encourage that mindset, because I get so tired in the paranormal circles of, oh, it's a demon. That there's a demon. Demons. There's a demon everywhere. And it's like, I understand that there are demons, and I don't discount that possibility, but I think there's also a whole hell of a lot of other things that are involved in these things, and people throwing the demon idea at it is, first, I don't think it's always accurate, and second, it's like calling a mosquito a hawk.
Right.
It's two very different things. If you have a demon attachment, you're gonna know it, because it's gonna come down on you like a. First, it's gonna be incredibly subtle.
Right.
You're just gonna be in questionable moods. You're gonna just feel funky. And that's not all, though. That's just how it starts. It's going to be just these little twists, these little weird thoughts that just seem to come out of nowhere, and it's going to reshape how you view everything around you. It's going to darken your whole world, and it's probably going to attack everything else around you as well. I mean, demons are just really, really dark, scary things.
Right. Well, and Deb just said in the YouTube chat, she said, well, think about it. They're going to, if they really want in, they're going to attack everything you love to get to you.
Right.
So, yeah.
And they're going to break you down systematically. So yeah, but that's great information, and thank you for sharing that, Don. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. So, yeah.
Very cool. So let's get into some of these stories, ladies and gentlemen. and see what else we can dig up from the ethers here. So
The aethers. Sorry.
there's aethers and there's ethers.
Oh, okay, fine.
Aethers is just a really cool word. I'll give you that. I think it sounds awesome, but I don't necessarily know what an aether is.
Oh my gracious.
Tell
It's
us, Don.
space in between.
Space in between.
Space in between.
Okay.
There's
There you go.
also, but it's also connected to the ether. It
Okay.
has a genesis in that word as well.
Ah.
So.
Okay. Well, I've just been learnt. So
Okay,
that's
so
good.
aether or ether may refer to aether, classical element, that's AE,
Uh-huh.
the material supposed to fill the region of the universe above the terrestrial sphere. There you go.
Perfect. All right. Let's continue then. We just got more of an education than I anticipated. All right.
Ah,
I'm. Let's see. I just got to get through this here. I have to admit I saw a ghost once. I'm not sure, but I have heard things which are not explainable. I'm 14 now, and I started experiencing these things when I was about 9 or 10 years old. And now that's kind of interesting. And I hope through the narrative of the story of this account that we get more information. But usually, these things are lessening. Well, no, not necessarily. I'm speaking out of turn here. Let me just continue. I think it all started one night when I just couldn't get to sleep, and I just laid in bed thinking about nothing. For some reason, I turned my head to see what looked like a little girl curled up into a ball, leaning to the wall. I freaked out. I quickly closed my eyes, turned the other way, and put the blankets over my head. There you go, Don.
there you go.
We got to make paranormal
Yeah, we gotta
blankets.
do it.
They are the shield to all paranormal things.
We are the shield for the shizit.
I slowly started to get sleepy, and I never talked about it again. The next time I was in the bathroom washing my feet when I turned up and there was like someone looking through my window. I was so scared that I ran out and slipped because my feet were still wet. I told my mom, but like all other parents, she didn't believe me. I forgot about that too until the next time it happened. When it did, I was using the bathroom, which made it even more embarrassing. I ran out and told my dad this time, and he did believe me. He got his flashlight, and I followed him into the back of the house. And when we got there, there was no one there or any footprints. So I don't know if it was some pervert who covered his footprints with dirt or if it was a ghost. Well, after that, I moved. The next time it happened, I went to my grandma's house for like 3 hours. I forgot why, though. Well, when we came back, we heard like this whirring type of sound coming from the kitchen. My dad went in, and it was a blender that was on. We turned it off and checked, and it was hot because it was. If it was hot, if it was, then one of us must have left it on. But it wasn't, and no one was home except my dog, and he can barely reach the chair. The next time my mom was trying to open the door to the bathroom when the door forcibly shut from the inside, which freaked her out, but we excused it as the wind. Oh, I love that. Though it couldn't be stronger than my mom. Well, that was when I was 13, and when this happened, I went to stay at my grandma's house, wow, this is harsh. Even though I hate her, but my mom was in Mexico right now, and at 3 in the morning, I was awake because I couldn't get to sleep when suddenly I heard footsteps in the kitchen, but not the normal kind of footsteps, but like someone with high heels. And like, as always, I freaked out and went to sleep. This person is coping pretty well.
If you can sleep after an episode,
I'm freaked out.
yeah.
I'm going to bed.
See ya.
The next thing happened when it was about 2 months ago at like 2 in the morning, and I went to the bathroom, and while I was in there, I heard footsteps in the kitchen, but when I got there was no one there. The next thing is when I was laying on my bed, I felt someone rub their fingers on my back, which creeped the hell out of me. Well, this is the last one, and this happened like a week ago because I'm 14 years old now, and I was at my aunt's house when I was closing the bedroom door when, like, out of nowhere, the door pushed itself closed. I don't know what's going on, but this follows me everywhere I go. So this would be a situation where the person is going to several different locations but still experiencing paranormal activity. And it's doesn't sound like, when you consider an attachment. But I think that there are attachments not in an energetic form, but just something following. And for some reason, this kid is the one that this spirit is choosing to expose itself to most, but not completely. I don't know. Very strange story. Why does that happen? What is going on? I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know. Can't claim to know, but
huh.
it's very interesting. But in those cases, it's not location based. It's not like the haunted house or the haunted room or
Right.
the haunted basement. It's just wherever this person seems to go, they're experiencing paranormal activity. Now, the other side of this is, could these people be sensitive themselves? And therefore, they are beacons to whatever spirits may be in the area they are. So it's not necessarily the same entity over and over. It's just they're moving around and these spirits are seeing them and going, hey, that's a
Oh,
bright light.
right.
I'm going to go make myself known to it. And that's why this kid is experiencing things. So
Huh.
perhaps he has psychic ability, and that's what they're cueing into. I
Right.
suppose I should look at the call board, and we have calls.
Oh, goodness.
We have a call from Mr. Naga. How you doing, Justin?
What's up?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey, how you doing, man? It's been a while.
It has.
It has. What's going on tonight?
I just saw that Lady Naga was hanging out, and she was with me for a little bit. She had to go to bed, or she's got to go to work. But I heard that you guys were talking about going to certain places and hearing certain things and seeing certain stuff. I just figure I can go in and talk about that.
Sure. Go ahead. What do you got, brother?
When I was down there in Louisiana, which was weird, it was right after Katrina. They had just outside of Baton Rouge. I was in LSU at the time. There was I always think it's funny. Everybody always says you have that what is it, the mental asylum or sanitarium, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
That you don't go to. It's isolated. You're not allowed to go in. Oh, the cops will show up when you decide to cross the premises, that kind of stuff. I was actually introduced, this is the first time I was actually introduced on the American side, or what I would call the Western side of my understanding of what was the spiritual culture. It was really funny. They brought me in as what they called the skeptic. By Eastern culture, and anybody who's ever heard this, the stories that I'm not trying to get into it. Anybody who knows the past that I've spoke about, I got the Eastern culture on my side. There's a lot of things, but you get the skepticism a little bit, just a little bit.
Yep.
I was brought in as the you don't believe it, but you do, but you don't. So we went in and we actually spent 24 hours in the sanitarium. It was called Merseyside, which is funny because I looked it up. It's actually, you couldn't find it on Google if you tried, but it's an old sanitarium that is no longer. It's for sale. It's a piece of property that's for sale, but you're never going to find it unless you try. But it's just outside of Baton Rouge. But I was brought in for the skeptic of a paranormal group that was at LSU, and we went in, and what was really funny is that when we went in, there's a lot of people. We had different faiths. We had Islam. We had everybody. We all went in with different skepticisms of the belief that you could go in to a sanitarium for 24 hours. What was really weird is that I went in for just over 12 hours, and I just sat there, and I always tell people, if you have skepticism, you're gonna believe your own stink of faith. That's what I call it. Things will blow over, things will move, but you'll always blame it on the wind, or you'll believe it on the pressure of the room, things of this nature. I went in one of the furthest areas that most people didn't want to go into because I was one of the few people who had what they would say was the least amount of faith. It was really entertaining me because I always felt that going into the place of the most danger is exactly where you want to go if you want to experience something of the supernatural.
Sure. Right. Go to the highest charged area.
Now,
sure.
I don't right. Now, I don't recommend that for the average human being, but I always tell people, if you have a certain amount of faith, faith will save you. It doesn't matter what you have.
Okay.
Your belief will carry.
Okay.
But it was always funny because I was considered the skeptic on this one because I was the least, what they call the Western faith. That was their way of getting away on the program that we did for us. But what was funny is that when we went in, I went in down to the basement, and that, I mean, it wasn't necessarily the supernatural area. It was just the fact that most people were known that if you get held into, I guess what they call the hole, you know, in a prison sense,
right,
that's where you would think that somebody was going to have a violent apparition. Well, there was, and you could, you know, and if you're sensitive, and I mean, I'm not trying to boost my own horn here, but
sure,
you feel definitely a very unnatural level of, it definitely doesn't seem right. But when you sit there, I sat there for 6 hours and nothing ever happened. But what happened was when I was leaving, there was 6 doors that were wide open when I was leaving. And as I walked, everything behind me shut the door.
Ooh.
That's what terrified me.
Yeah, that's creepy.
And I always, exactly. And that's what I told people. I had my own faith and my own belief, but when you're walking, it doesn't matter what you have.
Yeah.
When you're walking down a hallway and there's, 10 doors, you walk 4, and all of a sudden the next 6 slam, slam, slam. It doesn't matter. Scientifically, you cannot explain that.
Sure.
I understand a door too. There's pressure. There's,
right.
if you close one door might close. But all 6 doors slowly closing as you walk away. And I'm the first person to say it. As I walk slowly faster away from each one of these doors, what scared me the most is as I walked faster, doors closed behind me. I was the only person that stayed there till 6 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Which is what scared me the most. I was the only person, as I was meditating on my own in that room, in what they would call the isolation room. It didn't bother me, but till I left. And I always say, at the end of the day, your own psychosis is your worst problem.
Oh,
and
sure.
if you think about it, if you go into a mental institution, what is the worst thing that could ever happen to you? What is your own mental disability? Or not necessarily disability. I'm trying to be mean, but what is hindering you?
Right. Very
and
true.
As you walk away, those doors all slammed as I walked away because I felt that I was better than them. That's what I think, in my opinion. Now, people can say whatever they want. But as I walked away, I sat there for 6 hours and nothing played with me in that room, which was one of the deepest rooms, which I was not afraid to go there because I told them, I don't have certain faith. I'm going to just go down there and I'm going to do my thing.
Right.
But what scared me the most, and I always tell people, it's not what people don't understand about spirits. It doesn't matter what you think. Whatever your faith is, I hate to tell you this, if certain things have a certain faith different than yours, their belief system can be a little stronger than yours. It depends on what you're playing with.
It's
a little scarier than others.
That's probably possible. I'm not sure that that's the case, but that could be.
But I feel like I tell people all the time, because like I said, anybody who's ever listened to this, I do house cleansings. I can clean a house, but if a spirit feels harder than I can, and nobody in the house believes what I do, I can clean it all day, every week. And what I found out was, this is how I figured out what I was. I have my own beliefs, but when you walk away, certain things have a stronger belief than you do, or maybe it's not so much that they have a stronger belief than you, it's a completely different than you do. So when you meet them, it's a completely different understanding.
Right, but I still think if you
And when you
if
go
you have
into
a
the
lot of devotion in what you believe,
Right.
I think that is a protection, regardless of what the spirit may believe,
no, no, no,
because it all gets down to
absolutely,
it all gets down to
your
energy.
belief is definitely your defense,
Right.
for sure.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. What is yours is yours. I always tell people there's no doubt. What you have is yours for sure, especially if you truly believe.
Right.
But I always tell people, you ever seen? If you think about the Hollywood movies, one thing that I would say about Hollywood, they always show you in all those movies. What do they say?
Okay,
It's
brother.
a test of your faith.
Right.
Thanks a bunch for calling in, brother. We're about to head to break, so it's great to hear from you again.
Sure, brother.
And give the missus our love.
Absolutely.
We'll talk to you soon.
We'll talk to you guys later.
All right, ladies and
Absolutely,
gentlemen,
guys.
we're going to head to our break, and we will be back in just a couple minutes.
Hi, my name is Ella, and I'm 10 years old.
Everybody likes to play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger pours inside me, and their lies keep falling apart. But I'm not broken yet. I'm not broken yet. I'm not broken yet. I am finished with my silence. I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness. Just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise. You're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity. Just make sure that you're well fed. I'm not broken yet. I'm not broken yet. I'm not broken yet. I'm not broken
I can't see you, Mommy. Where are you? I've never sensed anything like it.
Carol Ann is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that's different from themselves. Her life force. It is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeist are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are of fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are moving into the second hour of tonight's show. Hope you are enjoying the ride. We got another call here, just waiting to get through. So we're going to move to that call right now. So let's see what's going on out in the phone ethers here. Welcome to the show, Sean. How you doing, brother?
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Somebody was talking about. I'm great. Bella was talking in the chat in YouTube about needing to know about how to do something with energy, and so I thought I'd first give you guys a little story, which I haven't given you because this is all about living a haunted life, and then some advice on how to break energy anchors. But one that I haven't yet told you guys, which was from about I'd say 16, 15 years ago. I went to Pennsylvania in order to visit some friends who decided to ditch me. And this was in April, and you can actually look up the exact date because it was snowing and the Pope died, so you know the exact dates there.
Oh, okay.
And I was kind of bored hanging around the hotel waiting for them to get off their thumbs and decide what we're going to go do and have fun. I actually brought proper gear for the snow because I didn't trust that it wasn't going to.
Uh-huh.
You know, when you have guides that say, hey, pay attention to your instinct and carry with you what you know you're going to need.
Uh-huh.
I go, okay. When they give you unsolicited advice, it's best to always listen. So I did.
Sure.
And so I decided, I've seen Groundhog Day probably about 1 billion times, so I'll go to Punxsutawney. It's just around the corner. I want to go and take a look at it.
Sure.
So, not to disappoint anybody who's seen the movie, no, they didn't shoot it in Punxsutawney. You could see all the different buildings they replicated for the sets in Wisconsin, including the big stage where they show off Punxsutawney Phil, which is on a farm.
Uh-huh.
And I parked my car and rental and was walking around the farm, taking a look at everything, and got this gut-wrenching feeling from the forest.
Oh.
And I had this terribly sad feeling. And I start walking into the woods, and I just get this sad feeling off the trees. Now, I can tell you, because I looked it up, why. When the original loggers went through that area, they logged all these oaks and then were told 20 years after they completely clear-cut the place that they were going to have to replant. And so they did, but they didn't do it with an eye to what they needed to do, which was to actually spread the trees out. So they're now currently competing for territory with each other and growing huge, and they're going to kill each other.
Oh.
So these forests are going to start collapsing, and the trees are going to die. Now, that's where I was picking up the sadness. But something in the forest also was there, and it wanted to be noticed. I had no idea what it was, and I still don't know.
Okay.
What I do know is that even with my sight, I was trying to see what it was that was giving me the feeling, and I finally gave up because whatever it was had basically pulled the, I guess you would say, the world over it so that it was concealed. And when I turned to leave, it whispered quite loudly, "Don't go."
Oh.
And I couldn't tell you where it came from exactly, just that it came from the trees behind me. And so I turned around just to try and see if I could see it. And then I saw something that was the equivalent of like a shadow of the predator, about the height of maybe 3.5 feet off the ground, run to the left. in amongst the trees, and I chased after it. Now I'm dressed in heavy clothing, so this weather, cold as it was not really gonna slow me down.
Sure.
And I'm wearing snow boots, and I'm chasing after this thing as fast as I can.
Okay.
So I'm digging out in the snow, and by the time I finally stop to catch my breath, and I'm just a bit winded and I'm sick of running, I realize that the trees have thinned, and I'm on the far side of a bridge, and I'm in a town called Sleepy Hollow.
Oh wow!
I thought, okay, I don't remember anything on the map saying Sleepy Hollow, and later on, I would actually look at the distance between myself and where I came out in Sleepy Hollow, and it was quite severe. I had run into the forest and come out in New York.
Wow.
And then realized I had been running for probably 20, 30 minutes and off again, would walk this to get my wind back and then keep going after this thing. And I realized I better turn around and head back the way I came because I have no idea if this is going to, whatever I went through is going to still be there. And I noticed that there was a change in the way that the wind blew when I moved past whatever membrane it was that moved me back to where I was, and I was back in Punxsutawney, and I was breathing easier because, I got the car there. I didn't know how I was going to get back to Pennsylvania from there. So it was rather funny.
It's a hell of a walk.
Yeah.
So I thought that was dang hilarious because whatever it was, if it kept me going, I might have ended up running all the way to Canada.
Right. You would have been knocking
whatever it was doing, because we were heading north.
You've been knocking on Santa's door there pretty quick. That's hilarious.
And I do have to disagree about the whole you've got to go someplace that's negative so you can get a paranormal event. No, you don't. If you want to have a paranormal event, if you want to have a negative paranormal event, you go looking in the bad places for the negative paranormal events. What you look for, you will find. If you go looking for the good ones, you're going to find ones that aren't dangerous, that aren't deadly, that can be spiritually uplifting. I mean, I keep saying it, but there is a silent movie theater that is haunted by famous ghosts that are not unfriendly to you, that want to put their arm over your shoulder and watch movies with you.
Tell me where
it's not
it
like
is.
it's going to be negative. Oh, that's it. It's in Hollywood. Seriously, it is actually in downtown. North Hollywood, I believe. North Hollywood.
Oh, cool.
And I drive past it all the time on the way to doing some of the work I do over near the CBS studios, because there's a nutrition store I have to do work there.
Oh,
and
okay.
So
Wow.
it's a great place to go. And I don't want to give a shameless plug to Ghost Adventures, but they were there. And it's one of those things where they were looking for the devil again.
Oh, geez.
And it's like, it could be a demon, couldn't it? Yeah, because this guy died here. It could have been the devil. If you go looking with eyes that are always looking for pitchforks and horns, by God, that's what you're going to see every time.
Yeah.
You're going to see evil in every reflection. And it's literally the fastest way to make sure that you are only ever scared or have scary situations.
Good point.
There are, unfortunately, negative things that can attach themselves to you, which is what Bella was talking about. She was like, well, how do you detach these things? Well, I can tell you how I detach these things. It was how I had to look into it in order to find where the energy attachments are. Now, if it's not an energy attachment, if it is not something that's siphoning energy off you, if it is just an emotional attachment, then it requires explaining to the thing that there is no emotional crossflow and that they need to let go. That's easy. That's an anchor point that can be broken by a simple explanation, nothing more. And then there are the ones that are holding on like an octopus that will not let go and it has a physical attachment to the aura, and it will keep siphoning so long as it can hold on.
Oh, okay.
But pets usually fall under the category of emotional attachment, and that one runs through the chakras rather than being grafted on. And the animals, when they love you, they attach themselves to you, and you are attached to them, and it is a crossflow. It is not a one-way energy course.
So it's kind of the familiar concept from Wicca, then, right?
Oh, good point.
That's the familiar concept.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
yeah, but the whole idea of having they say, well, you can only have the one, and And no, it's a cross flow of energy, and it can be many of them. In fact, Native Americans have this understanding that there's a cross flow of energy with all the different animals, especially if you are a preserver and a protector of them. They give as much as they take, and so you are stronger by the giving because they've taken and given back to you.
Right.
But when you're dealing with anchors that are created by something invidious that wants life to live or to make you suffer so that they can have the taste of life, that is a mandatory thing that you have to find where in the person it's attached. Oh, your kitty cat, that one looks like my Ashy. one of my one of my rescues.
It's funny, just as a side note, as a segue of this. This is Anubis, my cat, and he's a great cat, very loving and kind and all, but he's not really a snuggly, petty kind of cat. He likes to do his own thing when he wants to do it, but and this is an experience I had with my last male cat as well. After I had my appendix out, and he was a black cat as well. His name was Solomon, and both times that I have been, I've had a black male cat especially, but I've been dealing with this nasty infected wisdom tooth and stuff, and he's been absolutely snuggly and likes to come up and lay on me and purr now, and I know he's helping to process that energy, which is really cool. And when I had the appendix out, my cat Solomon was a black one as well, and he was very aloof too, but once I had my appendix out, he wouldn't leave me. And so they are incredibly helpful and in healing and processing energy.
That's biological as well as metaphysical. When a cat purrs, if they are purring for themselves, that's usually to self-soothe, because it's been proven that when they purr, it actually speeds up their healing process. Oh. But it also can be done to you, and they know it. Mm. And so when they purr and they're with you because you're injured, they're trying to share their energy as well as that frequency, that purring frequency, to help you heal yourself. Mm. And cats have that on an instinctive level, and they know how to keep you safe. And here's another funny thing about cats, and sure. This is about black cats in particular. Black cats are they themselves a kind of a breed. When they pop up, only usually male cats get completely black. Female cats usually have a little bit of white on them. There'll be like spots or speckles of it here or there, usually on the chest, ears, around the eyes. And they are ridiculously gregarious. They're protective, and this probably gave rise to why wise women would have lots of them around, because A, nobody would want them because they're black, and look, scary monster, kill it, as well as the fact that they're ridiculously protective, and they will even go after vermin viciously to keep you safe in your environment. And I know because I've had quite a few black cats. Oh, and cool. So when I read this, I thought, well, that makes a lot of sense. Right. So it's part of their very nature. But cool. Back to the energy thing, when detaching negative energy, you have to find where the anchor point is, what they're attaching it to and how they're holding on. And in some cases, the person's very demeanor can give it away, but otherwise I have to be in contact with them to really root out how they're holding on, what it is that they're attached to, whether it's a thing, an emotion, a memory, a shared past, the fact that the person has an excessive energy, how to wean them off of it, how to pull them away. And in some cases, it's just like grabbing that octopus that's holding on real tight and just being the stronger one who pulls. Oh, okay. And eventually pulling it free, hopefully.
So that requires you to be in physical proximity, or you can do it remotely as well, or no?
Oh, I can do it remotely. Okay. Diane can do it remotely. It's not one of those things I have to travel too far for, unless the thing has a humongous amount of energy, sure. Or it's got what we like to call a chorus. A chorus is usually the other things that it is absorbed in order to hide behind. Other personalities, other weaker forms that need to be detached, sort of like the little membranes inside of an onion. They have to be peeled back layer by layer until you get to the thing underneath that's trying to hide. Oh. And demons they don't have that level of finesse. Right. They don't usually try to throw stuff at you. If they're strong enough that they're perfectly happy with sticking their thumb in your eye. And what they go after is what you hold most dear and precious first. Because once you feel that you've lost those things, it weakens you emotionally and mentally enough to be able to dive deep and then see if they can't grab a hold of you from the inside out. When you think, I've got nothing left to lose, what's the point in living? Then they got you.
Right. Very cool and very true. I believe that you're absolutely right. And, it's a double tough thing when there's an attachment. It's hard. So as long as you're on the line, what are some things people can look for to know if they're dealing with an attachment? And I went over a couple of them, but I would like your input on this as well.
Well, it depends on the kind of attachment. If it's the beneficent kind, like with a pet, there's just this sharing of emotion and joy.
Sure.
Because you can have beneficial attachments, but you can also have negative ones. But the beneficial ones, they're the ones where you can suddenly feel like $1 million, or you take a walk in the woods and you're near the things that have decided that you're somebody worth hanging around, and you just are happy and full of joy. The same but inverse would be if you have negative things that are around you, or what Joel and I like to call leeches. And they come in multi-forms, and Diane can tell you at length about what they can look like. But imagine lampreys, and these things can just viciously attach themselves to your soul and start to suck. And you may not even know that they're there until they come off, and by God, that hurts.
Oh, really?
That really hurt.
Okay.
Because when they come off, then whatever it is that they're doing to stop you from feeling the pain, it's gone. And it feels like you got an open wound that's draining.
Oh.
Then there's the attachments that are considerably deeper. And let's say, let me give you an example of an emotional one. That was a thing was holding on to a lady at the emotional level. She had parted from this gentleman. He committed suicide. I'm not allowed to mention these names because this person actually holds office right now.
Okay.
And I'm not allowed to say where. So this person passed on and decided that it had not done with the family yet, and it was attached to each of the family members on a different emotional level. Her at the emotion of the responsibility level, she felt it was her fault. The eldest child was at his weakest point, causing him to do drugs so that he would weaken his hold on reality. So it was the reality point. And the kids were at their happiness point, the younger 3 children, and making them feel detached from the family by robbing them of their own inner light. This event actually required me with my eldest son and my youngest son to go into the house and simply flood it with light. And then I had to take each of the children, find where the emotional attachment was, and break it by giving them the advice that they needed to be able to shrug it off on their own. And then once I'd gotten to the anchors and freed them from the anchors, then get them out of the house so that I could find the opening the guy had punched to get in there and let him snap back to his own personal hell because he'd reached out from it. I'd never seen that before.
Wow.
Maybe Diane has, but I definitely had never seen it before.
That's really intense.
So those are and then there's the chakra point attachments, which some things that actually will push you so that you will think, act, or react or respond in different ways. And that can be either through the heart chakra or through the brow chakra. Now, the really strong ones will go through the brow chakra. And those can feel like somebody just gave you the worst sinus headache, and it keeps spreading out, but going not to the back of the head, nor too deep, but around the temples, almost like a hand grabbing you with a very hot, cold embrace and shouting, "Do this," and you will feel different ways. You will respond to people in different ways. You will see things differently. Things that may have given you joy before will no longer give you joy, or light can be painful. That's another one. That one's actually got literature written about it going back as far as Dickens. Exposure to light, once the attachments occur, causing suffering to the person.
Wow.
You'll even hear about people who will lock themselves in their homes and would hide from the light afterwards just because it was unbearable to look at.
That's incredible. Wow. Amazing.
And so having to approach these having to approach all of these different ones, it requires a different approach each time, which is why when I hear people say, oh, you just need this, or you just need that, or you just need sage. And I've learned, and this is my own personal truth, and it may be completely screwed, but I have learned there is no one size fits all, no one size fits most, no one size fits many, no one size fits but some. And so if there's a universal answer out there, I haven't yet come across it, and I'm a believer in simplicity. But a lot of these, when you finally get down to the core of them, they're simple, just not my version of simple and not my version of easy to come across.
Okay.
And one of the people I work with, she actually works with a psychic who will clear houses in people's lives and finds that some of the things are the weirdest stuff that they have to do in order to get things to move on. Even to the point of I think one of them she said Dubs did was eat from a bowl like a dog, the person's favorite meal.
Wow.
When they were alive. And then the person moved on. That one gave us all a really long laugh because I've never heard of anything like that.
Me.
And I'm not saying that's common. I'm just saying that one's one of the wildest ones that I've ever heard Dubs had to do.
Wow.
And it worked.
Now, can I ask you a quick question though? In terms of there not being one size fits all, and I think that's important and that's great information to bring. But would you say that things like saging and stuff can improve the energy of a tough situation until you can get it removed? That there are things that people can do for themselves that may at least alleviate some of the problem for a time until. Go ahead.
There are things that people can do that will actually break the attachment themselves. There's now sage is one, but sage doesn't always do it. But sure. Frankincense and myrrh in a censer is another option and can work. Salt, as well as my goodness, elemental crossing, which you create representations of the elemental cross and put them in places at the four corners, which can lock things out. And keep the person within it until the attachment weakens, withers, and dies is another possibility. These are ways that people can do this, or can keep them weak enough so that a person who is skilled in breaking the attachment can come in and remove it.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's see. Then there's surrounding with water, getting a person into the middle of a river that moves quickly, because water can also shatter that sort of thing.
Okay, yeah, and water's a great cleanser in many terms of spirituality. That's really cool. And, we're going to have to get you back on the show, Sean, because
definitely.
your information is absolutely incredible, and it's necessary. I think people need to know these things. So you and I are going to have to connect.
All right, talk your head off.
No, I'm not even trying to interrupt you, because I love what you're saying, and I think it's phenomenal information, but it's just occurring to me as you're saying it. It's like, no, we need to pull a show together with you and Joel, however you want to do it, but to share these information, because I think people need to be empowered. They need to understand the dynamics of what they're dealing with, because, as very well know, that most people's encounters with the paranormal is absolutely, terrifying. They have no way to process it. And so I think this kind of information is absolutely priceless to help people, give them a toolbox, at least of options that they can work with, and as well as, being able to connect with you and people like you to take care of the problems.
Yeah, many people don't realize is in their own homes, they have a plethora of what I would call weapons against things that are negative and untoward.
Okay.
I mean, literal weapons. Okay. One of the things that's really funny is that, a lot of people you have wooden spoons in your house that you use for stirring food, etc.
Okay.
And anything that has been used in order to cook food for your children and family in the name of love is infused with that. Oh. And so that can actually be used to backhand metaphysical things. I told that to a lady who called into the show, and she said, I actually hit a thing with it. I felt the thing connect with the spoon. I'm like, yeah.
Awesome. Now don't give away
you would
anymore.
Be surprised how many different tools there are.
Don't give away anymore, because this is the theme of the show you're going to be on with me, and so I want to save some. I want to save some of that material for the show.
Okay.
So
Okay, I'll stop.
So you and I will connect either tonight later or tomorrow, whenever works out for you, and we'll figure out when that can happen. But yeah, that'd be wonderful if you'd come on and go over some of these things, because people need to know these things. They need to know that they do have a plethora of tools, and they need to know what they are. So check your calendar and get back to me on when you're available for a Friday, Saturday show, and we're going to definitely do it.
Okay, and if you want Joel, I'll have to see when he's no longer on one of his many vacations. Life's so tough for him. He's on his fourth one this year.
Oh, poor guy. My heart goes out to him.
I wish I could do that.
I do too.
Well, since he's a nurse and he works so hard, I guess he definitely needs it. But I mean,
Absolutely.
the fourth one this year,
that's a good life. But
after
ladies
a
and
while,
gentlemen, we're going to go to our last break of the night, and we'll be right back. Sean, you and I are going to collect later, brother. So thanks for calling, and we'll be right back.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the last half hour of the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and we are coming to you live this Saturday night here from the Paranormal Portal Studios, located in the Mystery Bunker in Don's basement. Welcome back.
Wow.
And thank you guys for all of you that called in. Great participation.
Yeah.
And we are just having a great show.
Well, hey, Brent.
Yeah?
Our buddy Glenn from North Nottingham Paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
He's over across the pond in the UK.
Outstanding.
He says in the YouTube chat that many people get mixed up with demonic possession and jinn possession. No amount of saging will rid a person of a jinn possession. He says the jinn move between the third and the fourth dimension, and demonic remains within the third dimension. You know, and that's something I know. Glenn's been he's been studying the jinn phenomena. And maybe we might need to talk to him sometime too. But maybe Glenn could type up a quick email that may kind of highlight the differences between the two and send it off to us, and maybe we could talk about that. That's paranormalportalradio@gmail.com, Glenn.
Yeah, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, that's an interesting differentiation.
It is.
So yeah,
it is, and I've certainly heard a bunch about jinn, but it's one of those topics that there's
we don't know a whole lot.
Well, it's hard to find any comprehensive information about it. It's of course legendary to the Quran in Islamic lore, and I don't mean to say lore in a disrespectful way, but you know what I mean. It's just part of that belief system, but. The jinn, of course, are the source of the genie legend, and Aladdin and that whole story. But they can be either malevolent or benevolent, as I understand it, and they're just basically a force that shouldn't be messed with. So the whole idea of having a genie and getting 3 wishes, it's one of those things. Careful what you wish for.
Yes, exactly.
As I understand it, and I don't claim to be even knowledgeable on the jinn. It's something I've looked into many times, but again, I haven't found much comprehensive information on it. So Glenn, if you could provide some background on that for us, that'd be brilliant. Or if you want to be on the show to discuss it sometime, let me know. I'd love to have that discussion.
MCAT asked a question. He said maybe 4-dimension objects can pop in and out of our 3-dimension existence, and Glenn says they most likely do. But only with consciousness. So there you go. So yeah, that's interesting. It popping in and out. Jinn or not.
What does that mean with consciousness?
Well, that's a good question. So
again, that's one of those things. I'd love to know what that means, Glenn. And I certainly have a mental image of what it means, but I don't want to sound stupid.
He says that jinn are not demons. They are God's first creation that were banished by God to make way for humans. And he says he could do that. So there you go. So
so they were invented prior to the angels. Is that correct?
Well, certainly before men.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
I think he means to inhabit the earth, but God wiped them away as a first creation or a first attempt at what will inhabit the earth.
I got you.
And then it was washed away, like supposedly the dinosaur were. But we know how that goes.
Well, yeah, and that's really interesting. But I'd love to hear more about that for sure. And that's part of the beautiful thing about the portal is that we are a collection of paranormals, and everybody brings their own experience and knowledge to the table, and we all benefit from it. So yeah, Glenn, thank you for bringing that up. Would love to learn more. So definitely be in touch, and we can discuss it.
Definitely.
We can figure out when you can be on the portal, sir. I'm not sure what the time is over there, but...
Well, when we started at 9, Duncan was on at 6 a.m.
Oh, that's right.
Tomorrow.
At 9, so... Glenn, you're either up late or up early. I'm not sure
up
which
early
it
or
is.
stayed up late.
Yeah, whatever it is, but I'm so glad you're here, and thanks for being a part of the portal. That's always amazing. I'm a night owl by choice, too, but unfortunately having a wee one makes me more daytime oriented. They always have plans for their days.
That's true. That's true.
One of them doesn't include me sleeping in.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's continue our journey tonight. Did you have something you wanted to read, Don?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
But I wanted to touch on something that Sean had mentioned. and he was talking about, um, the different attachments and where they can attach, and that goes back to what I was reading at the beginning of the show. They can have emotional attachments or chakra attachments or just attachments to the body in general.
Mm-hmm.
So he was talking about that, and it was just great, because apparently I found a good piece of information for a change.
and the ghost detector did pull up the word May. May was the word that came through, and I'm not even sure when it came through. I didn't hear it.
MCAT heard it, and then I think Lewis heard it as well. So
okay, so yeah, it was MAY, May, as in, but not capitalized like the month. It's more like permission, like may I. So I'm not sure what it's in reference to. I'm not sure what was going on when that came through. What words were being discussed or what ideas were being discussed. But very interesting. I'll have to pay attention to the replay tomorrow and
there you go,
see if I can figure out what was going on.
Yeah, because see where it lands in chat, or when what we were discussing at the time. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's the first thing to come through all night. And again, it's not detecting presences per se tonight. So again, my experiment with having the booster, the wireless booster on, has had no effect that I can determine. So it's no different than any other time.
That's true enough.
Because it's been pretty benign, except for the word may coming through. May I come through? Is that what it's asking? Ooh, I don't know.
Wow.
Yes, you may, as long as you're not a dark, ugly thing trying to hurt somebody. So if you're loving and kind, you're always welcome here in the studios. So let's continue, ladies and gentlemen. This next one is coming from the United States at 2008.
Hey, scroll down so I can watch the call board.
Oh, here, okay, yeah.
There you go.
Why, were we expecting a call?
No,
and if you, ladies and gentlemen, the call board is open. If you'd like to participate in tonight's show, 213-233-3998.
Oh, what's the one for UK? So maybe Glenn could call.
44203-393-2871. But we got 18 minutes left.
Oh, we don't have enough time. Yeah.
Probably going to be a tough tonight to squeeze it in. But we'll definitely get in touch with Glenn about perhaps him appearing on the portal.
That'd be cool.
All right. So I was 3 months old and I was dead. I had a seizure and stopped breathing. I was lucky enough to have been in the hospital at the time, and I was almost instantly resuscitated. Long Beach, California, same day, March 11th, 1960, my 19-year-old birth father, Freddie, had skidded into an oncoming car on his motorcycle and was unfortunately killed instantly. We died within an hour of each other. This is where it all ended and where it all began for both of us. Neither Freddie or my birth mother ever had custody of me, and I was adopted at birth and raised by a family unrelated to me by bloodline, but still the only family I ever knew. My first memory of any paranormal experience was in my grandparents' beach house. It all began at age 5, maybe a little younger. The beach house had a lovely old staircase. It was painted and polished and always well lit, so there was no obvious reason for the terror that I felt every time I had to climb them. I was never able to take those stairs in a normal or a dignified manner until I was well into my teens. It seemed that by the time I got to the second step, I'd always be overwhelmed with an intense urge to run and run fast. One day I was running up the staircase so fast that I didn't see my grandmother and actually ran into her. She bellowed at me, "You take those stairs like the devil himself was chasing you." At the time, it seemed an adequate description. This staircase phenomena continued well into my 30s, but only when I was alone in the house. The same house gave me an overpowering urge to try and move things with my mind, but I was always afraid to actually try it or put my mind to it, just in case that it actually might have worked. Later on, when in my early 20s, a friend from the city stayed overnight at the beach house with me, and we spent a Saturday morning with my young daughter watching cartoons. When it came time to get ready for the day, my friend went halfway up the living room stairs when she stopped. Suddenly, she looked at her pocketbook, which she had forgotten at the foot of the stairs, and she kind of smiled, and then said, "Do you ever feel like you can move things with your mind when you're in this house?" Wow, that's bizarre. I realized right then that I was not the only one who got the feelings from the beach house, and I've heard that this old friend of mine was now working as a medium slash psychic. Built by my grandfather and used as a summer cottage for many, many years, the beach house was always packed to its human capacity every summer night from the early 20s until the 60s, when it was renovated and winterized and became their private home. During the beach house glory days, my grandparents rented out rooms to random circus acts who performed at the nearby amusement park. Poker games were played late into the night, laughter and music abound until the wee morning hours. As far as I know, though, only my grandfather actually died in the house from natural causes of old age. In the late 80s, late 80s, my 9-year-old daughter and I began living on a more permanent basis at my since deceased grandparents' beach house. I had broken my ankle a week before and had a cast up to my knee. Before taking a shower that evening, I sent my daughter downstairs to make us a couple of PB&J sandwiches for us to eat while we were watching TV in the bedroom before bed. The bedroom had once been my grandfather's room, but he had died 2 years earlier, and my parents had inherited the house and had completely refurbished it after Gramps had passed. Tearing out all the walls and putting in new insulation and new windows, the furniture was also all brand new. So there really was no explanation for what happened next. I came out of the shower, limped to my bedroom, and was instantly surrounded by an intense odor of my grandpa. He used Aqua Velva, but it wasn't just the smell of the aftershave. It was the way he smelled wearing it, with his own personal odor was permeating the room. I was horrified instantly. I couldn't breathe or move, and I was rooted to that one spot as if glued into place. Worse yet, I could hear my little daughter coming up the stairs, heading right for that very room. The last thing I wanted to do was scare my child, but I just could not, for the life of me, summon up enough strength to so much as bat an eyelash. I tried to force my frozen face into a smile as I saw her approaching, and I knew how frightened she would be if she saw that I was afraid. It didn't matter. She took one step into the room, and the plate of sandwiches went flying up into the air as she screamed out loud, "Grandpapa!" She flew out of the room at the very same moment I was released from my trap and able to follow her down the stairs, hopping all the way. I actually bumped down the entire flight of stairs so fast that my rump hurt for weeks. I called my big brother, who worked right down the street at a local corner store, and he came home right away, but the smell was gone by the time he got there. I spent that night in my daughter's room, and the next day I switched to another bedroom for good. Skip ahead 2 years, same beach house. I was... could you get the door? Skip ahead to my minions hollering downstairs. Skip ahead 2 years, same beach house. I was sitting in the reclining chair watching television, and it was about 9 p.m. Stretched out on the carpet at my feet was my ex-boyfriend, also watching TV. All of a sudden, he was in some sort of distress. He was desperately trying to move his body, but it was obvious that something was holding him down. I could actually see an impression of it on his shirt, while hanging above him was a dark, wispy cloud. I watched all of this as if I were in a trance. I didn't think or feel anything. I didn't make a move to help him. I just sat there as he continued to struggle, watching him as he grunted and writhed desperately, fighting to move. This was a man who had recently moved my mom's refrigerator up 2 flights of stairs all by himself, and now he couldn't muster the strength to get up off the floor. I have no idea how long all of this lasted, but it seemed that just as suddenly he was free again. We both watched the dark, shadowy cloud move toward the front door and disappear. When the cloud had disappeared, we turned our heads in unison and continued watching the TV without saying a thing, as if it never happened. A few weeks later, while eating in a restaurant, as if on cue, we both remembered what had happened and then talked about it at great length. In fact, we both forgot about it for so long, makes me wonder what other paranormal events have been erased from our memories over time. A year later, at the same house, late at night, I was in the living room all by myself, my daughter tucked in bed upstairs, and several cars with lights on and music playing pulled up right outside the house. I listened and cussed as I realized that a bunch of my buddies must be stopping by for a little late night party at my house, and I wasn't going to be happy about it if they woke up my daughter. As I was getting up and going to the front door, I heard all the cars' doors closing, maybe 4 or 5 cars, and I could tell they were all drunk by their laughter and the songs that they were singing. Why else would my friends, the Led Zeppelin kids in the 1970s, be singing How Much Is That Doggy in the Window? They moved across the porch and then opened up the outside screen door, just as I threw open the inside door to reveal, you guessed it, nothing and nobody there. Just a shock of cold air on a hot summer night. This happened to me 3 or 4 times after the original time, but I was always alone. Years later, my daughter told me that she heard people out on the porch partying, and that she looked outside. Of course, there was nobody there. She had also heard crying from the upstairs bathroom on many occasions. When she had been small, she said she just knew that it was my grandmother crying. My daughter was only 3 when Nana died and in no way could have remembered her. I had 2 major experiences when I was 17. One of those experiences was my one and only full-bodied apparition sighting ever. Excuse me. My first experience that year was shortly after my friend's boyfriend died, and he had been the only one involved in a drunk driving accident. Only a few days later, my friend, still hugely distraught, sat at my kitchen table and cried out for her dead boyfriend to hear her. She then proceeded to tell him how much she loved him and would miss him and that she forgave him. I nearly fainted dead away as soon as she had finished speaking. I had never felt so cold or lost and out of control in all my life. Suddenly, 6 stacked dishes just flew off the shelf behind us, and just like that, I instantly felt better. Later that year, I was home on a Saturday night with my little baby. A few of my girlfriends had gone out for the night and were partying at a pub in a nearby town. And shortly later, after last call at the bar, when I was nearly asleep at home, one of my friends called and said her car wouldn't start, and would I come and get them all in my car, please? Believe me, I wasn't feeling it, but of course I did. I got dressed, left my baby with my mom, and went to pick up my girls. When I got to the car, the bar was closed, and my 3 semi-drunken friends were in the parking lot, surrounded by and partying with about 20, maybe more biker dudes. I wasn't happy about this. I was tired and wanted to get back home to my baby. But I got out of the car and went towards the large group, all the while yelling at my friends to get in the car now. As I got nearer to the group, I heard a noise to my right and turned to see a trooper standing about 5 feet away from me. He had on a different kind of state uniform than I'd ever seen before, but all I really needed to know was that he was a cop. In the back of my mind, I guess I figured that they must have gotten new uniforms, and I didn't have to turn my head very far from the trooper to look at my friends, so I still had him in my peripheral. I remember saying something to my friends like, "Great, now look what you've done. The cops are here." As I was saying this, the cop started to move from my sight, so I turned my head towards him, but just as I did, poof, he was gone. Just like that, I learned later the uniform was actually a 1950s style uniform. And as I look back, I remember thinking at the time that he was wearing knee-high black boots. But now, whenever I think of that moment, I am not so sure that there was anything at all below the knees. I never told anyone about it for a very long time, and people were present were too loud and never heard me tell them the cops were there. Years later, while in my late 20s, I married and moved away from the beach house, and my husband is a no-nonsense, reality-based sort of bloke, wasn't and still isn't into the paranormal thing. He tells me he will spend enough time convening with the dead when he joins them, and I can't dispute his logic there. And I couldn't deny my instincts either, but this being a solid marriage that has stood the test of time, we managed to work out all of our differences. Oh, this is a long one.
Wow.
It's still going. During the early days of our marriage, though, the paranormal rarely ever came up, and I never shared with him the experiences I had had, although I did have a few worth mentioning, 2 of which happened when I was sleeping. So even though my heart and mind tell me that these things were real and that I was actually awake at the time, I could never prove it to anyone else as evidence. These incidences would have to be rejected, but I know differently. In May of 94, I had finally decided to look up my birth father, Freddie, and I had met my birth mother at the age of 24, and she had given me some info on Freddie, but not very much. I found myself as a product of a one-night fling with not much info to go on. Now that my daughter was getting older, I decided to look into him, and of course I knew by then that he had died very tragically at a very young age. First, I went to Freddie's old high school, where I had gotten some black and white photos of him, and I even had located a cousin who had lived with Freddie's family as a child, so I was well into getting to know, to a limited extent, of course, the man who had been a part of making me. During this time, I had what you might even call a dream, but what I call a stunning and wonderful reality. I don't remember what day it was, but it was early summer, around 3 a.m. or so, and I was awakened by a bright light emanating from the middle of my oversized bedroom. What was once a 3-bedroom upstairs was now just one huge room. As the light began to fade, an image began to emerge and then became more clear, and I could see it was a young man in jeans and a black leather jacket with a shock of red hair that he kept slicked back. His eyes were the blue of the ocean. His smile was shy and wide. I did not hesitate, not even for a moment, when he beckoned me to come closer. Yes, I knew right away that this young man was Freddie, and I was lying in my bed looking at him, and he was as real as you and me, just standing there waiting for me to cross the room. I was 34 years old. I had no fear as I gleefully hopped up out of bed to go to him, and when I hit the floor, I felt younger, more alive. I felt like I had when I was in my 20s. And as I continued to walk toward him, I became aware that suddenly I was a teenager again, and then a young child about 8 years old. As I reached him, I realized that I was now only a very young child of 3, maybe 4. I stood before him and reached my arms up to him, and I was now only about as tall as his waist, and he bent down and lovingly gathered me up in his arms, and he began to turn slowly, and as he turned, I felt myself getting smaller in his arms. I became younger, smaller, a toddler perhaps. When he completed the turn, I was a newborn, an infant again. Freddie cuddled me in his arms, and as we gazed lovingly at each other, blue eyes to blue eyes, soaking up the love that we had never known. And yes, I knew that I was now an infant. I was aware of it all. Everything as it was happening, not a dream, but so far out of reality. It seemed like we were staying that way for hours, looking into each other's eyes. At the same time, I know it could only have been moments. Then slowly, he began to turn again in the opposite direction, and as he did, I began to get bigger and older again. I felt so sad. I became frightened. I didn't want him to leave. But he held me closely, and I just knew everything would be all right. When he let me down from his arms, I was 4 years old again, and when he had to give me a gentle push to make me walk back towards the bed. I just didn't want to lose him again, but then, as I was walking, I began to age. I was 13, 15, 20, 25. I got back into bed and pulled the blankets over my head. Once again, I was 34-year-old, and I was crying. I woke up crying. Could I really have had such a magnificent dream? Did Freddie really return to me, fueled by my sudden interest in him? Was this his way of telling me that he had been with me my entire life? I wish I knew. I do know one thing. If it was a dream, it has never faded as dreams do. I hold dearly every moment of the entire experience, as if it just happened yesterday. The very next day, I went to visit Freddie's grave for the first time. A huge old cemetery about 10 miles from my home. I had never been there before. I went right to Freddie's grave, right to it, with no help at all. I had never done anything like that before, but I do believe that given the right situation, I could maybe do it again. April of 96, around 1 a.m., I was so sick with allergies and bronchitis, and I had been asleep for about 13 hours. Suddenly, I sat straight up as I felt the air, wind, or presence, I don't know, come rushing at me. I felt my mom in a rush of the moment. She was in front of me, and I was with her, and then she was in me, and I became her. feeling, thinking, smelling, knowing all that was my mother. And then she was gone. I laid back down, and just as my husband asked, "What is it? What was that?" and I calmly replied, "My mother just died."
Brent.
Yeah?
It's time.
It's time. It is time. Oh, well, it's a beautiful story. Sorry I couldn't finish.
Wow, yeah, but look at your slider. You got a long way to go in that. That
It
thing's
is
huge.
This is a huge, huge story.
Well, there it is.
Love you all, guys. Thanks
Sorry.
a bunch. Stick around for Chris and Shri Geo coming up for Beyond the Veil, and later on, Jimmy Jean, Rio, and Brandy doing Into the Microcosm. We love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice.
Thank you.
We'll see you Wednesday night.
Wednesday night.
Don't miss it.
Censorship.
I got to finish that story. So I'm going to continue it. We're back in the overtime here.
Okay, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me see. Where was I? Because I can't leave you guys hanging like that. It's still a long story. I still got a long way to go. But if you guys don't mind, I feel it's necessary to finish this because it's a beautiful story. It's wonderful. Overtime, ladies and gentlemen.
Overtime.
VIP, YouTube only overtime here on the portal. So I hope you don't mind. But stick around. We're not going anywhere. Don't you go anywhere. All right. So she went to visit the grave. She was sick.
And she went right straight.
And her mother came, and she wrote. Her husband asked what was that, and he said she calmly replied, "My mother just died." That's and right. I rolled over and went back to sleep. Right. Of course, it's true. She really did die at that moment. But why hadn't I woken up and ran downstairs and called someone? Why did I just roll over without doing anything? And what about my husband? Why wasn't he startled, awake by my frightening words? We simply went back to sleep. Maybe my mind was rejecting what it had been through, or maybe it had been exhausted by the experience. It was all just so real. My mother went right through me, and although I can never prove it, I know that it really happened. A special moment between our bodies and souls that will never be forgotten. I was left knowing that I wasn't saying goodbye. I was saying so long, and I'll see you soon. I was left with the absolute knowledge of her love for me from the inside out. Over the next 10 years leading up to our moving into the haunted house in Salem,
oh boy,
this is getting good. We were pretty uneventful. I did receive 3 phone calls from people who had recently passed. I know that sounds nuts, but it really happened. The first call was in '96, shortly after my mom died. I got home from work, and there was a call from an old friend on my caller ID from about 5 a.m. that morning. I couldn't imagine why he had called after so many years of not talking or even seeing each other, but soon the phone rang again, and my ID read it was his phone number again. I picked it up and said hello a few times, but got no response. I forgot all about it until a few days later when I learned he had passed. He had died the night before he called me. He died in his home around 11 p.m. and was discovered the next night at 6. Calculations say he was alone, unfounded, and dead in his bed from a drug overdose when he called me. Aw, that's terrible. 1 year later, a similar story, another dear departed old friend calling me from his home, although, according to my caller ID, moments after he died in the hospital from a post-surgical complication. In 2003, my own dear brother passed in his sleep. At the age of 54, his heart simply gave out. It was so unexpected, and we were all just in a fog, emotionally crushed, hurting, and totally out of sorts. My brother had worked at the same Cornerstone restaurant for several years. Within hours after his death, my brother's boss started calling me. My caller ID gave the phone in the name of the restaurant. It read simply Smitty's Corner payphone with the phone number.
Really?
He continued to call me over and over for the next 2 days, but I just couldn't answer. I was buried in my grief and didn't want to talk to anyone except my family. Well, he was your family. He is your family. It was almost a week later when my daughter and I went to Smitty's Corner for a memorial to celebrate my brother's life. I just glanced at my brother's boss, and suddenly it struck me. There was no reason for him to be calling me from outside payphone. He would have called from the inside of the store. or a cell phone or home phone, but not the payphone. And why would he call so many times over and over when he knew we were grieving? I just knew at that very moment that it had been my brother. Sure enough, when I got home, the caller ID said Smitty's Corner again. It was the last time he ever called, and to this day, I regret not taking any of those calls. I chalk up those phone calls as a precursor to my ability to catch EVP so easily now. I'm a medium, a sensitive, or psychic. Am I a medium, a sensitive, a psychic? I have no idea, and I am not sure if I am willing to find out yet. My husband and I moved to Salem, the shore of Massachusetts, in October 2005. The reason we moved up country was to make an easier commute for my husband. We soon found a lovely little cottage right across the street from a small lake, and we fell in love and agreed to buy the little house the first time we saw it. Right off, I loved our little home by the lake, and I had recently been renovated, so everything was new and gleaming. Before I moved, I spent several days there with my husband, putting up shelves, pictures, and curtains. I never sensed or felt anything that seemed strange to me during those days shortly before moving in. When moving day came, now adult, daughter was big help. This was her first time seeing the place, and I couldn't wait for her to see how close it was to the lake. She always loved to swim and sunbathe, so I just knew she was going to love the place. Well, she didn't. She hated it, and I saw it in her eyes the minute she got inside. She kept trying to tell me, "It's nice, Ma. You're going to like it here," but her eyes did not agree with what her lips were saying. Later, my husband told me she had complained that the house had a terrible odor all through it. She couldn't understand why nobody else could smell it. A year later, she admitted it to me for the first time in the house, that it made her feel like she needed to run out of there, go home, wash the creepy off. I wish she had told me how she felt, but I understand why she didn't. We had never lived so far apart before, about an hour and a half, and we missed each other like crazy. Okay, so we did talk on the phone 1 to 4 times a day, but it was not the same as actually being together. My daughter is my heart, and we were very close, and we love each other dearly. And when she would visit, she would normally stay a few days or more if her work schedule permitted, and she did stay overnight on and off over the next year. Even though we didn't seem to be getting along so well at the time, I would gleefully wait for her to return to the little cottage, but unfortunately, whenever she did come back, whenever she did come back, she would be a monster. From the moment she stepped into the house until the end of her stay, when I was rushing her out the door, she was very bad-tempered and constantly trying to pick fights. She would then go home and call me and thank me for telling her she had a great time and how grateful she was for my cooking and my love, and that she was sorry for being in such a bad mood. She would sound again like the little sweetheart she really is. I blamed her moody behavior on moving away, and all that was forgiven and forgotten. The very next day I moved into the cottage, I started to smell the terrible odor. For the life of me, I could never understand why I hadn't smelled it before moving in. The stench seemed to come out of everywhere, the walls, the floors, the ceilings. It was intensely strong and nasty, but would only last for a few minutes, making it impossible to find the exact source of it. Yet we would smell it often. It wasn't the case of getting used to a bad odor after being in the house for a while. No, this stench would come suddenly from out of nowhere, even after I had been in the house for hours. Yet I never thought that any of this could be paranormal. Not once. I'd gotten crusty and set in my ways, and now reaching my mid-40s rather, I did remember my earlier paranormal experiences. I'm a night owl. It still goes on and on and on and on.
I know, it's huge.
This is incredibly long. It would take me another 30 minutes to read all of it.
Yep.
So I think that's where I'm going to stop it. But it's an amazing series of events that really catalogs this person's experience, and it's incredible. I think it's an amazing bunch of stories. So,
yeah, that's a lot to read. Yeah, that's another half hour.
Yeah, it is.
You're right. Wow.
Yeah, it is. Oh. I'm responding to a Skype message that was from 10 a.m. It says, "Are you awake?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then I looked at when it was sent. It was quite a while ago. Oops. All right.
All right. So
All right,
overtime over?
Overtime is over.
Oh,
I
goodness.
hope you guys enjoyed the little extra. It was just I wanted to get a little more into that story. But we love you all. Again, be good, be kind, be nice. Help each other out. Help out everybody you can. Spread the love, spread the kindness. Diffuse the vitriol.
There you go.
And make this world a better place.
Absolutely.
And we'll be back on Wednesday night, of course, for more of the Paranormal Portal with all of you paranormals. So we'll see you on Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. Good night.
All right. Love, 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 love. All right. All right. Where's the button? Where's the button?
Love Fest is over.
Love, love, love.
Good night.